Welcome to the BFIT Blueprint podcast. We are your hosts, Cody Israel and Brad Durham. For all you BFIT members and beyond, this is where we break down the blueprint of building a healthier, stronger you. In every episode, we share actionable tips, expert advice, and real stories to inspire you to level up your mind, body, and lifestyle. Whether you are just taking your first step or pushing for the next breakthrough, we've got the tools to get you there.
What is up, BFIT? Welcome back to the BFIT Blueprint Season 3, Episode 2. I'm back, your host, Cody Israel, with my co-host today, Cailie Stewart. Had her on the show plenty of times. Should be used to her voice by now. She is our nutrition coach here at BFIT. And we're excited to bring you today topic of, really we're going to discuss the updated dietary guidelines of the new, quote unquote, new food pyramid that was just unveiled by Health and Human Services here. So this is just something we're very passionate about and something we feel kind of validated in what we've been preaching and telling people here at BFIT. Cailie, how long you been here?
Almost 4.5 years now. Hard to believe, but the message has been consistent. Plenty of protein, plenty of fruits and vegetables, not avoiding fats. Basically, very, very similar to what the new guidelines are showing. Limiting sugars, all the things that we're going to kind of break down today. So it was super validating for me in the work I've been doing here. And all of you out there that have been my clients, probably this will all make sense to you when you hear this.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about the first thing we're going to talk about is something that we've talked about on this show before.
A lot.
You know, really emphasizing this as a part of your diet in order to really reach any goal that you're trying to do. And that is the emphasis of protein and the types of protein you're consuming.
Yeah. So it looks to me like, Cody, that the protein requirements doubled according to what they had been prior.
Because it was, I think
it was 0.8 grams per kilogram, which there's a lot of math involved with that. But now it's, I think it was 1.2 to 1.7 grams per kilogram. So essentially doubled.
You know, so roughly we could say that was less than half of your body weight in grams of protein.
So if you're, say, example, 130-pound female, now the upper end of what they're recommending is around 100 grams of protein, whereas before it may have been 50 to 60. So that's a huge jump.
And, you know, so what was recommended before was like essentially the bare minimum to, I don't want to say survive, but to function.
Prevent a severe deficiency. Yeah, but not optimal.
Yeah, prevent fragility.
Yeah.
You know, I like to say. So now we're getting to a much more sufficient number of grams of protein in your diet to hopefully help you reach whatever goal it is, whether, you know, building muscle, losing weight, hopefully.
It's all the same, essentially.
Yeah. So hopefully this will help steer you in the right direction. And honestly, depending on your goal, like you've heard us talk about on here before, you might even need more protein than that. Again, I would say this is almost like, and this is just us coming from a coaching standpoint, I would almost say this is a minimum. Like this is the minimum amount you should eat.
I think it's a solid minimum. Yeah. I would say it's a solid minimum because I did the math on myself and it's about my minimum.
Yeah.
You know, the math, the higher end of what they're recommending is about my minimum amount of protein that I try to get in per day. Like I said, it's based on your goals, but essentially I think a lot of people were under eating on protein, which made them overeat on other things. And I think that's the idea behind there's lots of benefits to protein, but that's one of the ideas of adding protein to your diet can keep you from overeating on other things. And like we've said before, Cody, like making your own GLP-1, you know what I mean? This really helps with satiety and blood sugar balance and all the things.
So the range, kind of, I'm on the same, path as you. The range that it's given me is on the low end, 109 grams. Which I think is inadequate for myself to reach goals that I would like to reach, you know, maintaining muscle mass, building muscle mass. That's barely over 0.5 grams of my body weight. And then upper range is 145 grams of protein, which is probably more sufficient.
That's decent.
That's almost 0.8 grams per pound, which a lot of the research shows is sufficient for building muscle mass.
Yeah, I think mine was about, the bottom end was 70 and the top end was about 100, which is 100 is kind of my basement. And actually for most of the men and women I recommend, women I say start with a goal of 100 and guys 150.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good round number for sure.
Yeah.
And, we've talked on here just this simplified things because right there we just had to do math, 1.2 grams per kilogram. So I had to do a bunch of math. It's a lot easier just to say a round number like that, or 1 gram per pound of body weight, just like, okay, this is the number I have to hit. I don't have to do any math. There's no math involved.
Yeah.
Other than addition.
Or 30 to 40 grams per meal, just to start.
Another great one.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and then along those lines is, what they do recommend with the protein is what you just said. They recommend having protein at every meal.
Yes. Yeah. So that'll help keep you satisfied. It'll prevent blood sugar spikes.
Yep.
And it'll feed into your goals of building muscle, staying lean, losing body fat.
Well, like we said, it's easy to get behind on protein if you don't start your day with protein. So the guideline of having 30 to 40 grams at every meal starts your day off with protein, assuming you're not fasting, which that's a different thing where it makes it even more challenging to make sure you're getting in enough protein.
It does.
But assuming you're eating 3 to 4 meals a day, that's a pretty good start to the day, hitting at 30 to 40 grams minimum to kick off the day. So,
I mean, I might argue that the bookend meals of the day are the most important. I mean, when you're breaking your fast in the morning and before you're heading into a fast, it's just getting a good amount of protein. I mean, if you get that at breakfast, I promise you, it'll really help your energy levels throughout the day.
And then, when they're talking about animal sources, they're recommending sources that we've talked about, the top sources of protein, meats being number one, eggs, poultry, seafood, red meat even, they're recommending whole food sources of protein, or whole food sources to get your protein in, versus like we've talked about protein powders. They can be very beneficial if you are lacking throughout the day to, fill in the gaps. But the recommendation being whole foods, and that's what we're focusing on today, what the recommendation is, I think that is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, the message is simple. It's eat real food.
Yep.
Eat real food.
And really, we should have talked about that before we dove into the pyramid itself. The emphasis of the entire new nutritional guidelines is to eat real food.
Yes.
Because that's part of it. Is one of the, I guess we can move on from protein. One of the, major components of this is either eliminate or keep to as much of a minimum as you can processed foods.
Yeah. And we've talked about that till we're blue in the face too. And I think by adding protein and the fruits and vegetables, this happens organically. When you're eating enough fiber and protein, you automatically eat less refined carbohydrates.
Absolutely.
I can promise you.
Yeah. And when it comes to like the carbohydrates section, they are from the last food guidelines to this guidelines, there was a major reduction in the, I guess, visual representation and the recommendation of carbohydrates in the diet.
I think, Cody, a large part of that is because not that carbohydrates are bad, but the average American is eating 300% more carbs than what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to be educated. If you're a high level athlete or a nursing mother, or, you have to know what your personal needs are.
Mm-hmm.
The nutrition isn't really necessarily a graphic problem. I would say it's an execution problem, and it's a lack of education.
Yeah.
So know what your personal needs are. And us here at BFIT Nutrition, we're really happy to help you with your individual needs. But the pyramid is just kind of a guideline, but it could be different for everybody.
Yeah. And to go along those lines, like it's execution, because I would say if someone followed the previous pyramid or the MyPlate representation, it wasn't necessarily bad by any means. You could have followed that and followed their guidelines and been perfectly healthy.
Let's be real. I don't think most people are following any of the guidelines.
No, you're probably right. You're probably right. But what we're discussing today is, the changes. And I think that change, like we said, in the protein and now the carbohydrates, I think those are positive changes for the majority of people. Like you said, obviously high level athletes, nursing mothers, they need
more carbohydrates.
Yeah, different needs for different people. But for the Gen Pop, I think so far the changes and the overall changes that have been discussed are positive changes.
It raises awareness and individualization about like what lane food is in. You know what I mean? I just kind of think, is it, something that we should eat more of or less of? And I think most people aren't eating enough fiber. So I love to see the vegetables at the top of the pyramid. I think a lot of people are. I think that's changed a little bit because there's been so much hype about protein. I think people are trying to eat a little bit more protein, but the fruits and vegetables, in my opinion, the benefits of the fiber coming from them should be really highlighted.
Yeah. And I think you are. I think you're right. I think people are trying to get more protein.
Yeah.
But also, and of course I would rather them get protein from some source than no protein at all. But I think people do tend to lean towards the snacky types of proteins, stuff like that. Because, it is easy and convenient, and like I said, I'd rather you have some than none at all. But there are better sources of protein out there that will benefit you in other realms, satiety, muscle building, all of those things, than the quick, easy fix.
Yeah, food with limited ingredients. And it really doesn't have to be some difficult gourmet food like we've talked about before. It can be the simplest thing, but just food without a lot of ingredients.
Yeah. For example, for us this week, I cooked up 30 burger patties on Sunday, and it took me an hour to get the meat out of the package, weigh it out, form it into patties, grill it, and clean the grill on a Blackstone. Took me an hour to do all that.
Yeah, and there's one ingredient.
And then that's an entire week's worth plus some of lunches for me, Jay, and the kids want some that can have some too.
Yeah, perfect.
So it took an hour, and you can. Obviously that's just the main dish. You can add rice, and
but
rice takes 10 minutes.
To throw in. Yeah,
those things are easy. Whole foods when you're not overthinking about it and plan appropriately. Simple.
Yeah.
Easy.
Really simple.
Doesn't take that long.
Agreed.
But going back, so there was a reduction, in the guideline of refined carbohydrates or processed carbohydrates, which I think is where we get into trouble when it comes to our diets. And that's part of, they also recommended no processed foods, which we know those are the foods that are easy to overeat. The refined carbs, processed foods in general. And then in the fats section, it wants to limit the amount of saturated fat, which what happens when you combine fat, sugars, and carbs all in one food.
Yeah, that's kind of a disaster.
That is your processed food, and that is a slippery slope when you start eating that type of food. It is genetically engineered to make you want to eat more of that food.
Tough food environment. And all those things are marketed as colorful, especially to kids, and fun and delicious and addicting. And like we've talked about before, sometimes you have to eliminate those things if you can't moderate them.
Yeah.
And
transitioning to the fats. So what I have in my notes here, the new recommendation, it ends the emphasis on restricting fats from whole foods. So it's promoting fats from whole food sources like meats, eggs, full fat dairy, butter, avocados, nuts, olive oil, all of those things. Whereas in the old guidelines, it encouraged a low fat or fat free options of all of those things.
So Cody, I think if I could write a letter to my 1996 self, I would tell myself to follow more this food guide pyramid than the one that I learned in college.
Yeah.
I think I would have had a better body composition, better energy level, better hormone balance. I really like to see this. And so I do think the graphic butter and whole milk there at the tops. But if you do read the fine print, it does say to limit saturated fat than less than 10% of your daily calories per day. So if you're getting 2,000 calories, that would be like 220 or 200 calories a day of saturated fat. So that is something.
Like 25 grams.
Yeah.
Which is quite a bit of saturated fat.
It's a fair amount. So you could put half and half in your coffee, and you can have some red meat with dinner. I think what they're telling us is that these things are not off limits. There's a space for them. And there is.
And I would even say for someone that is active and fit and isn't is in the recommended or isn't overweight, I should say, you could probably get away with even more.
I think so too. And I also think that certain people have a different way that they metabolize saturated fat. So
Yeah, I think there is an individual variation.
some people have are a little bit more sensitive to it. So that's like what we always try to communicate. Know your numbers, know your LDL cholesterol, know your triglyceride levels. Those are things that you should be discussing with your doctor. And I do think that cutting back on saturated fat for some people can have an impact in that. And some people aren't bothered by it at all. So just know your numbers, like we talked about before.
Like I would say, like just for as a just because I do have a little bit of example for myself. So my cholesterol numbers are well within the healthy range, and and it's not for a long period of time. But me and Jay, we've done like a meat-based diet, or we've done full-on carnivore for a month. They're shorter periods of time, but it hasn't seemed to have an effect on my overall cholesterol numbers. So that just kind of goes in line with what they're saying. Everybody's a little bit different.
And I will tell you that I think as you age and get closer to middle life, that those numbers can kind of sneak up on you a little more than when you're young.
But, in regards to that, essentially lowering the carbohydrates, kind of what it said, increasing your fat, increasing your protein. We've talked about, blood sugar spikes and drops and how that affects energy levels throughout the day. We've talked about that a lot on here. And I think one way to help with the energy levels throughout the day is by lowering your carbohydrates and increasing your fat and protein. So I think, in the grand scheme of things, this is a way to make people more productive, make them feel better throughout the day, just mental clarity wise, energy levels, and just make them overall. And obviously, if you help with those things, you're going to help them overall. That's going to bring up the overall, feeling of that person.
Yeah. And I mean, not to mention the benefit to your metabolic health.
Yeah.
So many people are walking around almost pre-diabetic. So just eating like this can really help mitigate that for sure.
Yeah. And now we can move on to little things. Dairy recommendations, kind of along the same lines of what we just talked about with the fat, just because it's a lot of dairy comes with a lot of fat. There's full fat dairy, there's 2%, there's low fat, and they recommend the full fat dairy, which I think that's fine. Oh, but again, you always have to be mindful of your overall calories because it does come with overall calories.
Yeah, and can I give a personal example of how I balance this? Because I actually have an addiction with putting half and half in my coffee. Okay. And so I know that it's
milk and cream, right? Half and half milk and cream.
Yeah. And I know it's high in saturated fat. And I know it's high in calories. So I put that in my coffee every day. But I also will have non-fat yogurt for breakfast. So I get the fat from the half and half. That's very satiating because I put quite a bit in. And then I balance that with non-fat yogurt. So it's just kind of an example if you're trying to limit it, how you can balance that.
Now, I do have a question. So, and you may not know, it's just us kind of thinking out loud, asking out loud. Do you think there is a difference, or is there a difference between like a processed saturated fat molecule and a saturated fat molecule that comes from whole foods? Like
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Like, and how that affect, like, how it does it affect the way our body, metabolizes or uses it?
I think so. Yeah, I would say so. But still, I mean, from an overall calorie standpoint, it's still high in calories.
Yeah.
But I do think when you're talking saturated fat from steak or eggs or half and half, your body's really going to like that better than from French fries and fried chicken and donuts.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Quality. I think it's more quality fuel. And I think that fat can be good for you overall.
Yeah.
And once again, the satiating factor. Like I said, back in the 90s when I tried not to eat any fat, I was hungry all the time. And so, like I said, I would tell myself, put the half and half in your coffee.
Mm-hmm. Well, right now, actually, me and Jade are doing a animal-based diet with fruit. So it's kind of I guess you could call it keto-esque, animal-based with fruit. I mean, that's what I'm just using straight up heavy cream in my coffee right now.
Oh, that's really good. So, I prefer that even, but I have to draw the line somewhere.
In my coffee.
It's so good.
Yeah. So moving on to added sugars. So in the old nutrition guidelines, the guideline was to limit to 10% or less of daily calories of added sugars,
Yeah,
which that's a significant amount. If
it
I'm
is.
eating 3,000 calories a day, that's 300 grams of added sugars divided by 4. That's almost, I don't know, is that 75 grams of
Yeah, that's
added
a
sugars a day?
lot. That's
That's a lot of
a
added
lot.
sugars.
Yeah, but that's still less than what most people are getting, Cody.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But the new stance is a little bit more aggressive, where the recommendation is no amount of added sugars um to the diet.
Yeah, that I honestly think that's a little tight.
Which again, I'm looking at this a whole. Obviously these are recommendations. I
Right.
assume the people that created this obviously know that that's not feasible every day, but that is the goal.
The message is to limit your sugar.
Yeah.
So if I could share the goal I give my clients.
Uh-huh.
So when I meet with my clients, I set a pretty strict goal for females to limit to 25 grams and males to limit 35 grams of sugar a day.
Added sugar or
Added
Okay.
sugar, not natural sugars.
Yeah, fruits and stuff.
No raisins or anything like that. But yeah, added sugar, that's our goal. So if you look at, you can find those sugar grams under carbohydrate and it'll say added sugar.
Yeah, it didn't used to say that, but
Yes,
in the
it's
past, what,
very
5 years?
helpful. Well, it's very
Yeah.
helpful,
I
especially
agree.
when I'm giving my clients goals. Things like 90% dark chocolate. I mean, there's hardly any sugar in
Mhm.
that. It's maybe
Yeah.
3 grams per serving. If you have a little bit of a sweet tooth, those are some kind of tricks,
Yeah.
or things like dates are very sweet, and raisins and things like that can kind of help satisfy sweet tooth without the added sugar. So I do think that no added sugar is tight. In a perfect world, yes. But I mean, if you want to give yourself a goal, that's what I give my clients.
Yeah. No, I think that's
Yeah.
good. I think that's good. And I just want like I said, I think they understand, people who made this, that it may not be feasible to do that every day, but that's our goal.
The
And if you-
message is loud and clear that sugar's bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you come up just a little short, if you consumed, 2% of your total calories, I think that's great.
Yeah, if you're cutting back, it's a benefit.
Yeah. And along the same lines, they also recommend cutting out all non-nutritive sweeteners. So
that's
like
tight
the
too.
0-calorie sweeteners. Ooh, I'm a little they use
I know. I use
a decent amount of those.
well, it's even in our electrolytes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's electrolytes, and I like a diet soda with dinner,
Yeah.
5-6 times
Yeah.
a week.
Once again, Cody, I feel like all of this, it's a matter of common sense.
Yeah.
So don't be drinking and eating aspartame laden things all day long.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what
we
I mean?
talked about that before.
Yeah.
There's studies linking aspartame to negative health outcomes, but also in those studies, the amount given to the rats were way beyond physiological levels possible in humans.
Yeah.
So yes, if you consume a lot of these things, it may not be beneficial for you.
Yeah.
So it's probably best to limit, or what they're recommending, eliminate it altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mess to me, I mean, and maybe I'm kind of a moderate nutrition coach, but to me the message is cut back.
Yeah.
Cut back. It's not necessarily, especially in our food environment, feasible to eliminate all these
Yeah.
things all the time.
Yeah, how I look at it, like I'm weighing myself drinking a 45-gram sugar added regular soda pop or a 0-calorie, no sugar added diet pop.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the 0-calorie diet pop 10 times out of 10.
Well, especially if you're trying to transition somebody off that drinks a lot of
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the diet version can be helpful eventually to get to, I don't want to say eliminating, but cutting way back on that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It can be helpful to transition people into that.
And I will say, it is crazy to, how many calories, especially if someone is unaware, or you're starting to work with someone who is brand new to nutrition, how many calories are in drinks.
Yeah. Especially coffee drinks, like sweetened coffee drinks.
Well, and then sweet tea,
Yeah.
so, get a fountain soda, when you go out to eat, like that stuff adds up quick.
Yeah, so I have I don't know if you've ever been to Seven Brew Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite. So I love
Them and Dutch
the
Bros is pretty good.
hot blondie from Seven Brew. And so,
I think that's what Jake.
oh, it's so good. So I actually looked it up one time. 60 grams of sugar
Yeah, right.
in one like medium or large blondie. And so now when I get it 1/4 sweet, but still 15 grams of sugar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I got
So it's
so
still, I'm like, ooh.
luckily
So
we
it's a
don't
treat.
have a Dutch Bros here in
I think
town.
we're getting one.
Are we?
Yeah.
That's not good. Anytime that I go to Dutch Bros, me and Jade, I don't know, I don't remember what it's called, but they make the drink and the milk, they use chocolate milk to mix
Oh,
in with the coffee.
oh,
And it is so good. That is what I get every time I go. We go very rarely. It's probably been like 3 times in my entire life,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I get that every time. And it's so good.
Corinne got the Cocoa Moco from there. That was, I think it was coconut and chocolate. It was
Coconut, right?
fabulous. And then I got the Golden Eagle,
Uh,
which is kind of like Dutch Bros version of the Blondie. So
Yeah.
yeah, Cody, I don't know why they didn't put coffee and chocolate on the food pyramid.
yeah, I agree. I agree. No, I like my adult chocolate nuts. That's what I call my
Yeah,
coffees and hot chocolate.
find out what that Dutch Bros drink
Yeah.
is.
Oh, I will. But I think that covers pretty much all of the main points of the new quote unquote new food pyramid that recently came out. And I think, we kind of covered the overall focus. The overall focus is eating real food,
Mhm.
limit the amount of added sugars or eliminate them altogether. Focus more on your proteins, fats, limit your carbohydrates a little bit. And I think the whole goal with this is and I think it's the same with any food pyramid that is, whether it's the original or the My Plate, is that if you follow these guidelines, it should put you in a pretty good spot, health wise, metabolic wise.
I feel like if you eat, I really feel this way, Cody. You might agree. I feel like if you eat 80% of the time, like real quality whole foods,
Yeah,
your body composition will just automatically fall into a pretty good
no,
place.
I agree.
I
Like,
mean, I really do think so.
I don't want to say you could eat whatever you want, eating 80 to 90% whole foods, but you could eat quite a bit of what you
You
wanted to
could.
if
You
you just
could.
ate 80 to 90% whole foods all the time.
Yeah, and it would really eliminate a lot of cravings.
Yeah.
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 You
And
know,
I know I have heard some backlash about the food guide pyramid. Unfortunately, nutrition, it's frustrating. Shouldn't be political,
I agree.
but your metabolic health does not care about your political affiliations. Know your numbers. Speak to your doctor, educate yourself. We're here to help you too. I'm always here to help you. Cody knows a ton about nutrition as well. But just educate yourself would be my recommendation as far as nutrition goes.
Yeah. And I just, and here before we wrap the podcast, I do want to spend a little bit of time, because I did have one of our members ask about this, like recommendations for children. He asked specifically like protein
Uh-huh.
recommendations, but, now this was my opinion. My opinion was, assuming you are eating a whole food diet and your kids are eating what you are eating, which they hopefully should be eating what you are eating, then it doesn't really, then no, you should not be really having a protein target for your child because they should be getting protein at every meal.
Yes, I agree with that, Cody. Yeah.
And then really it's a moot point when it comes down to that. But that got me kind of curious about recommendations for children and if there's been any changes from the old nutrition guidelines to the new nutrition guidelines. And really there hasn't been too much, other than a lot of it is similar to what for adults, the added sugars, they
Was
recommended.
it none up to age 10?
It said no amount of added sugars or non-nutritive sweeteners is recommended or considered part of a healthy diet. The guidelines strongly calls for complete avoidance for children under the age of 4. Some sources extend this emphasis to age 10 for zero added sugar to support development and prevent obesity / related issues.
I mean, I think
Which
it would.
it's really
It
hard
would.
it's really hard to argue that, because if you don't
Expose
form that as part of your palate
Yes.
as a young child, then, what you eat as a child a lot of times is what you end up eating or craving as you
Yes.
get older. And if you are not exposed or even just minimally exposed, like I said, not like, of course, you're going to eat cake and ice cream for your birthday, or if you go to a birthday party, stuff like that. But if it's not part of your daily, maybe even weekly, diet, you're going to, that child is going to be set up very well, I believe, in the future.
Yes, as a mother of 3 kids now in their 20s, I expose my kids to a lot.
Yeah.
And they are not picky at all. Like exposing your kids to a wide variety of food, because I see their friends, and come by, oh, I've never had that, or I don't like that, or
Yeah.
whatever. So you can kind of help develop the palate. And if you don't give them Oreos when they're 2 years old,
And I will say that, like, none of us are perfect. And
I wasn't.
we've given Margot bites of brownies and bites of just random sweets, frosting, whipped cream stuff here and there.
Right.
You know, it's just part of being a parent. But I think the key is limiting
I
those
think so.
things.
Making
Is
them a
the
treat.
key. Yeah.
Making them a treat.
Not
Yeah.
making it the normal. Like, making it a treat. Like, hey, this is something
Special treat.
special that we don't have all the time.
Yeah,
So, because that's what makes it special.
that's right.
So I think that's a good
Well, and
thing.
I also heard, Cody, that they're bringing whole milk back in school. Is
I
that
did hear
true?
that. I
Yeah.
did hear that.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's true or not, I heard that it very well could be. Which whole milk's delicious.
Well, I used to work as a food service manager
Uh-huh.
for a K through 8 school, and I actually was working when they had the new, gosh, was it 2008? And the new guidelines that were pretty tight. Again, we had to make a big switch, which I think some of the changes that were made were
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
But one of them was the skim milk, or 1% milk. I got to tell you, the kids were hungry.
Yeah.
They were hungry. I mean,
I was feeling
they were buying record number of snacks after
Yeah.
we made some of those changes. So having a larger portion of protein after working in the school, having a larger portion of protein and whole milk would keep those kids way more satisfied and blood sugar balanced, ready to learn, ready to do their sports.
Yeah.
I think it would have made a big difference.
Well, and honestly, I hope some of what has came out with this changes some of what is currently part of the school regimen, because we have 2 girls that are in elementary school, and when you go to school and the main part of lunch is mozzarella sticks,
Yeah.
fried cheese, I think we're doing something wrong
think
there.
so, too.
Like, who's going to have fried cheese as their main dish?
So, Cody, I have another quick story, if I could.
I go for it.
Okay, so when I was working in the school district, you get so much amount of commodities that you can have processed into
Mhm.
the way you like them.
Yeah.
And so they had whole chicken pieces that most schools had made into chicken nuggets and chicken rings and whatever. When I worked there, I just had them send the chicken.
Yeah.
Not only did it save the school money, it was
Uh-huh.
better for the kids.
Yeah.
And so I made bone-in chicken for lunch at school where I worked.
Yeah.
I actually had a child cry because he had no idea what it was.
Really?
Yeah, this was a 6th grade
Yeah.
child.
Cool.
Cry because he had never seen bone-in chicken.
Huh.
So, I mean,
Interesting.
once again, and that was a way more nutritious and filling and satisfying. It had the skin on it,
Yeah.
it had the fat from the chicken
Uh-huh.
skin, and very nutritious, satisfying meal, not deep fried, not loaded with a bunch of fillers. So once again, the child just hadn't been exposed to it.
Yeah. And, talking about protein, they are prioritizing more protein as part of the child's meal. And they recommend the same thing, having protein at every meal.
Yeah.
Now, they don't give a recommended grams per whatever, but they're also kind of in if you wanted a number, it's a very similar number, 1.2 to 1.6 grams
but
per kilogram.
A
But
rectangle of cheese pizza is probably not going to
no, no. And, and again, this is another frustrating thing for breakfast. Sometimes it's French toast sticks or a Pop-Tart or 2 Pop-Tarts
Yeah.
as their breakfast. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, it's
I
frustrating.
know it is, because it sets them up for a rough day.
Well, the kids are not going to be able to focus because they're starving, but also their blood sugar
Yeah.
spikes and then crashes, and then they're not paying
They're
attention.
hungry by 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, it's-
Teachers are getting after them, and okay. Then moving on, a lot of it, like I said, a lot of it's the same. Highly processed foods, limit or explicitly get rid of fats, eat more fats from whole food sources, grains, encouraging whole grains, and lowering the refined carbs. All of this is, the same stuff we've been saying, the same stuff as adults. Why should your kids be eating any differently than you are?
Yeah, I do think if you expose them to what you're eating at a young age, that they'll follow suit.
Yeah, one of our kids' favorite foods is broccoli.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
raw broccoli.
Yeah.
And I don't even like raw broccoli.
Hayden loved Brussels sprouts as a child, like absolutely loved them.
I hated them, but I like them now roasted.
Yeah, same.
But, and again, all of this to say, it goes back to the overall message. Eat your whole foods, focus on your protein, get healthy fats, limit your highly processed or eliminate your highly processed foods, contain some carbohydrates based on energy levels, and do the same for your kids.
Yeah, 5 a day, fruits and vegetables, 3
Yeah.
veggie servings, 2 fruit servings a day. That's actually a challenge I've given my clients ever since my first day here at BFIT.
And, even if you're someone, say you do work out or you don't work out, this is a good diet for either person.
It is.
Obviously, you've heard the saying, quote, abs are made in the kitchen. 100%, 100% true. Like,
Yeah.
they're revealed in the kitchen, I should say. Obviously, you can build your abs by lifting weights, so on and so forth, training. But, that's where they're revealed. That is where you build your healthy body composition, is by what you consume on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Like I said, I think if you eat like this 80 to 90% of the time and work out, even several days a week, I feel like you will have really good body composition.
Yeah. Well, unless you have anything else to add, Cailie.
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Yep. That wraps up episode 2 of season 3 of the BFIT Blueprint podcast. We'll be back next month. We'll have Dr. Lindsay Rice back on the show. We're going to talk about men's testosterone replacement therapy next month, after we talked about mainly women's hormone replacement therapy in the previous episode that she was on. So we will see you in March. Have a great rest of your month, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the BFIT Blueprint podcast. If you would, please subscribe, like, comment, and share on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, or whichever platform it is that you listen to the BFIT Blueprint podcast.